Avoiding porn, that's not a plan. It's not a plan. That's a dream. Building habits, following through on commitments, being accountable to someone, going through a system to build replacement coping mechanisms, that's a plan. Hey, y'all, welcome back to the show. Welcome back again to the Porn to Purpose podcast. This week, I'm flying solo. Yeadon Smith here, my partner in recovery, Matt. He is on a retreat. He's doing this silent retreat. I'm excited for him to go. He's learning he's practicing his meditation, leveling up his skill. So while he's on his retreat, I'm holding down the fort, talking about recovery, the lessons learned along the way, what it means to go from porn to purpose. And in this episode, I wanted to share a story that happened to me just the other morning. Let me set the stage. So that morning, I got up, getting up my normal time. I don't get up super early these days. I get up at 6 a.m. My alarm goes off, get up, help my 10-year-old daughter get ready to get to school. After I drop her off from school, then I start working on my morning routine. Morning routine involves the core four. And you've probably seen those posts online where people brag about their morning routines. Like, man, I get up at 5 a.m. I do a cold plunge, I meditate, journal, lift weights, run 5 miles, run a company, save the world, all before breakfast. You know, sometimes it feels like everyone's routine takes 2.5 hours. They're living in some alternate universe where no one has kids, dishes, or deadlines. And honestly, I used to roll my eyes at that. In fact, I remember when I was going through the Liberation Boot Camp process, when I was going through the curriculum, going through the material, working on myself, Matt recommended I read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And I read it and thought, oh my gosh, this guy clearly doesn't have children. Getting up at 5 a.m., man, I'm just trying to get enough sleep to survive the next day. But even though there were parts of the book that didn't make sense for my life, I took something valuable from it. There really is something valuable about having a morning routine, getting myself centered and set for the day. It's like the story, and I've told this to my kids. This is a classic story. You may have heard it. Don't stop me if you've heard it. I know you won't because it's a podcast. You can't interrupt me. College professor shows up to his class and he says, today we're going to do an object lesson. Let's say it's an engineering class, bunch of engineers. He has this clear plastic bucket. And he puts these big rocks in the bucket, asks the class, is the bucket full? Class says, yes. And then he pulls out a bucket of smaller rocks, pours it in the bucket, fills in all the cracks between the big rocks. Asks the class again, is the bucket full now? Class is like, okay, well, now it's full. Pulls out sand, fills in all the space between the smaller rocks with sand. Asks the class again, is the bucket full now? They're like, I think so, but probably not. What's going on here? Gets a pitcher of water, pours water into the clear bucket, filling in all of the empty space. Asks the class again, how about now? Is the bucket full? Yes, bucket is definitely full now. Then he asks the class, so what's the lesson here? Class is like, hey, you can always fit more stuff in. And the professor says, well, no, that's not the lesson. The lesson is, if I hadn't put the big rocks in first, they never would have fit. And for me, my recovery is the big rocks. Doing the work of active participation in my own recovery every day. Those are the big rocks. Because recovery is one of the most important components of my life now. Because I don't want to go back into the addiction of porn. I don't want to fall back into the abyss. Life is too good here, where the voice in my head is gone, threatening my relationships. The guilt, the fear, the shame, all of the emotional pain that came with the addiction. Having healthy coping mechanisms to deal with the pain, not having to reach for the porn pill anymore. There are days where I want to. There are days where I feel the pull. And I remind myself, I go through the 4-rack formula. remember the pain, reflect on the paradise, recommit, uh, re- restore. No, now I'm screwing it up because I can never remember it. Choose a new behavior. Reflect on what you actually need. That's what it is. The fourth thought. Reflect on what you actually need. Ask yourself, what else can I do to meet that need? And choose that new behavior. Now there are days where I feel the pull and I'm like, okay, what's actually going on? What need do I have when I feel that pull? But it starts with my morning routine, my routine of my recovery habits. I get them in first part of the day. Most of the time, 95% of the time. There's some days where I miss it. Maybe it's Sunday morning, don't have to get up early, or Saturday morning, get up and I know I'm going to have space in the rest of the day where I can carve out time for the core four, and I might miss it. But generally speaking, my core four, I hit it as soon right after I drop my daughter off at school. I'm back at the house, going on my walk with the dogs, listening to my audiobook, journaling, sitting in my chair, meditating. And something I've added to my morning routine, in addition to the core four, is a cold plunge. Drop it into a tank. I do a lot of running. I do lifting weights. I actually have a Spartan 10K race that I'm doing in a couple days with my son, 15-year-old son. So I want the physical benefits of the cold plunge. And I've also learned dropping in the cold plunge, that shock, it helps me practice what it feels like when my emotions shock me, when my emotions flare up out of nowhere. Cold plunge, I'm a big fan of it. I'm not saying you have to do it for recovery, but I've found a lot of benefits for me. So this morning, outside, finished my core four, staring at my cold plunge tank. Now, I need to let you know that where I am in the country, I live in the low country of South Carolina, and cold weather for us is not the same as cold weather for, say, where Matt lives in Pennsylvania. Our definitions of cold are very different. For me, when it gets down below 50 degrees, that's cold. If it's in the 30s, that's frigid. And we had a cold snap come through this past week. And this morning, it's not even 40 degrees outside. The water temperature is in the upper, the water temperature is actually warmer than the air. It's like water temperature, high 40s. And I'm looking at the cold plunge tank thinking, I do not want to do this. I do not want to do this. It's cold. I'm cold. I don't want to drop in the tank. What am I doing? But what I did it anyway. But one of the reasons why I forced myself to do it was because right after my core four, I checked in with our community. I said, hey guys, core four is complete. And as soon as I'm off this check-in, I'm going to go jump in the cold plunge tank. I had said it out loud to my community of accountability, my community of support. So as I'm standing outside at the cold plunge tank, I'm thinking like, oh, I do not want to do this. So I did it anyway. I dropped in the cold plunge tank, was in the tank for 90 seconds. And so I didn't drop in because then I'm not splashing, but step in the cold plunge tank, ease myself into the water, drop in the cold plunge, sat there for 90 seconds, shivering away. And I distinctly remember a couple of thoughts showing up while I was in the tank. First, the idea of choosing your hard, right? If you haven't heard this phrase, choose your hard, I love this concept. Choose your hard. Because hard shows up in life. And we don't get to decide, right? We don't get to decide when it shows up, oftentimes. It shows up by itself. But we do get to choose what hard we're going to take. Like before I was in recovery, my hard was I was stuck in addiction. I was dealing with the terror of being found out every day. I was dealing with the guilt and the fear and the shame of carrying this baggage in my marriage. I was dealing with the fear of my children not being able to navigate a world where you're carrying around the entire anthology of porn in your phone in your pocket 24/7. Terrified. Dealing with that hard. That's hard. Living with addiction. You know what else is hard? Recovery. Recovery is hard. It's hard to do the recovery work. There are days where I don't want to do it. It takes effort. It takes commitment. Just like with a lot of things, it's hard to go to the gym. It's hard to train for a race. It's hard to track what you eat. It's hard to stay disciplined in so many areas of life. But on the flip side, the other side of hard, it's hard being 70 and being short of breath and having heart problems and not being able to be active the way you want to. I talked about how hard it is living in the addiction of pornography, in that darkness, with that guilt, with that fear, with that shame. It's all hard. But we get to choose which hard we want in life. So back to this morning, I was choosing my hard, choosing to sit in the cold water for 90 seconds, choosing to do my core 4, choosing to be an active participant in my recovery, doing the work on myself. Because doing the daily check-ins, sticking with these habits, showing up for weekly calls, it's not easy. It's not super convenient to be on a check-in call on Saturday, to be on a Wednesday midweek huddle call. That's not super convenient. I could be doing other things. But living enslaved to addiction is a whole lot harder. So the first thought I had was choose your heart. Second thought I had was about commitment. Because it's not enough to want change. Wanting change generally doesn't really give us the outcome, doesn't give us the results that we're craving. We have to have a system that keeps us accountable. So there's a study I love, and you probably have heard about this study somewhere. I did some research. It looks like it was done by the Association for Talent Development, whatever that group is. And it breaks down the actual percentages of success when it comes to reaching goals. And here's what they found. Just having an idea gives you a 10% chance of success. And I'm going to apply this to recovery. It's like, idea, I should quit using porn. You have a 10% chance of success in getting away from porn. Deciding you'll do it, ups it to 25%. Deciding when you'll do it, ups it to 40%. Planning how you'll do it, ups it to 50%. Committing to someone else, 65%. Having a specific accountability appointment with that person, 95% chance of success. For commitment, that's why community and accountability are so powerful, because it's not about willpower, it's about structure. When I joined the Liberation Bootcamp, I finally had both. I had a real plan and real accountability, not just try harder or avoid porn. See, I realized as I look back, I never really had a plan for how I would quit, how I would get away from pornography addiction. Because I didn't understand porn addiction as a coping mechanism. I only understood it as like a behavior I needed to avoid, right? Sinful, not healthy, bad behavior, bad habit. I didn't realize I was using it as a coping mechanism for the pain in life. And it wasn't until I was in the Liberation Bootcamp doing the work, understanding what was going on inside myself. It was like, oh, this is the system I'm using. This is how I use porn in my coping system. Now that I understand that, I can replace porn with something else. I still have a coping system, but now instead of reaching for the pain pill of porn, I have all of these other pain pills I can take that don't have the bad side effects. So I'm in the Liberation Bootcamp, and I had the plan, said it out loud to somebody else. I knew when I was going to do it, how I was going to do it. I had a plan. I committed to somebody else and had accountability appointments with our Saturday call and our Wednesday call. Every week, I'm showing up. People asking me how I'm doing with the curriculum, how I'm doing with my plan, not just like how it was when I was in college with my accountability partner from church, where it's like, you look at porn this week, I didn't do too, yeah, I failed. Well, do better next week. How'd you do this week? Not good. Okay, do better next week. That was every week. That was a week after week conversation. That's just how it was. Because I didn't have a plan. It wasn't until the boot camp that I got a plan, plugged into this accountability system where I could get the results that I wanted of freedom, replacing porn with healthy coping mechanisms. Because I'll tell you what, avoiding porn, that's not a plan. It's not a plan. That's a dream. Building habits, following through on commitments, being accountable to someone, going through a system to build replacement coping mechanisms, that's a plan. So I want to just leave y'all kind of with these two thoughts. Choose your hard. You have the power to make the choice. Choose the hard. And like the song says, not making a choice is a choice. You still made a choice, even if you haven't made a choice. If you choose recovery, it's going to be difficult. It's tough. It's work. But not choosing recovery and just choosing to live with the addiction, that's more painful. There's so much at risk. There's so much at stake with life, relationships, marriage relationship, children relationships. So choose your hard. The second thing, commitment. Having the commitment to show up, to work on your systems in a structure that is going to support you. Because you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, right? I don't know how many times I quit porn as a goal, but every single time I fell back to the level of my systems, because the system I had in place, the only system I had was using the pain pill of porn. And every time I fell back to that system. It wasn't until I figured out how to redo the system. So now when I fall back, this system, I can process life. I can handle the emotional punches. I can deal with the stress and chaos and pain of life without reaching for the pain pill of porn. I have other tools that I can use to manage that instead of falling back into that old system of, well, I better get on the porn site because that's the only way I can manage this pain. Choose your hard. Build your structure. Get accountable. That's where the real freedom starts. Brother, thanks for tuning in this week. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you would, man, give us a like. Give us a review. Give us a positive review on the podcast websites, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. It really does help spread this message to men who are looking for how to change the structure in their life, change the systems, and recover from this black abyss that is pornography. In the meantime, keep fighting the fight. Keep doing the work. Keep taking the next step. And we'll see you on the next episode.